everyone. Welcome to the Sharmit vlogs. In this vlog, I'm taking you through my experience at the Build with AI Bootcamp, an event that brought together students, professional, technology enthusiasts, and a lot of excitement around the artificial intelligence and innovation. The event had already begun to build its momentum even before the session started. Inside the auditorium, participants were getting their system ready, installing the required application, checking their setups, and making sure everything was in a perfect place for the hands on experience ahead. At the same time, there was a very lively atmosphere in the room. Students were interacting with their friends, discussing ideas, helping each other out, and enjoying those initial moments before the session officially got underway. In fact, the host and the volunteer team were also constantly on the move, assisting participants with their setups and making sure that everyone was ready without any last moment hurdle. Looking back, these small moments really captured the atmosphere of the boot camp, a room full of curious minds, technology, collaboration, and anticipation. And from here, the actual Build with AI experience was about to begin. With the auditorium all set and everyone ready to learn, it was finally time to move from preparation to action. I took the stage and kicked off the session with one of the most exciting areas in technology today, that is artificial intelligence or AI. We started by understanding generative AI and, more importantly, how it is different from traditional AI. Rather than just looking at AI as a concept, the goal was to understand how these technologies are actually changing the way we create, solve problems, and interact with technology. From there, we moved into something that has become an essential skill in the AI era: prompting. We explored how the way we communicate with AI can significantly influence the quality of result and why responsible prompting is just as important as knowing the right tools. The session then became even more hands-on as we explored some of the latest AI powered tools including Stitch, Gemini and anti-gravity, and looked at how these tools can turn ideas into something much more practical and tangible. What made the session even more exciting was the interaction with the audience. It wasn't just about me speaking from the stage, it was about exploring these ideas together, asking questions, discussing possibilities, and seeing how AI can actually fit into the way we build and create. And this was where the real Build with AI experience started to take shape. After an engaging and packed session, it was time to step away from the stage and move into one of the most valuable part of any tech event: networking. The session may have ended, but the conversations certainly didn't. Participants started meeting each other, introducing themselves, exchanging ideas, and of course, capturing the moments with plenty of pictures. These photographs were not just about remembering the event, they captured the people, the energy, and the connection that made the experience special. But for me, the most interesting part was the conversations that happened beyond the session. A lot of participants came up and shared their experience, talked about what they had learned, and discussed how they were thinking about applying artificial intelligence or AI in their own work and projects. Some of them also had a very specific question related to the project they are building. We discussed their ideas, the challenges they were facing, and how AI tools could potentially help them move from an idea to a more practical implementation. And this is something I really enjoy about being a part of techno communities. The learning doesn't stop when the presentation ends. Sometimes the most meaningful discussions happens afterwards when people get the opportunity to talk one on one, share their perspective, ask questions and learn from each other. There were conversations around projects, ideas, tools, career possibilities, and of course, plenty of curiosity about what is possible with the artificial intelligence. What made these interactions even more special was about the diversity of the people in the room. Everyone came with a different background, a different level of experience, and a different perspective. But there was a common curiosity to learn, experiment, and build something meaningful with technology. And somewhere between those conversations, pictures, questions, and shared experience, the bootcamp become more than just a session. It became an opportunity to connect with people, exchange knowledge, and build relationships within the tech community. Looking back, these were some of the moments that made the entire experience truly memorable. Because ultimately, technology may bring people together in the same room, but it's the conversations and connection that make an event worth remembering. And just like that, the first day of the Build with AI Bootcamp was coming to an end. After a day filled with learning, new ideas, hands on exploration, conversation, and countless memorable moments, it was finally time to wrap up the things. The auditorium that had been buzzing with energy throughout the day was slowly settling down. Participants were taking their last few pictures, catching up with friends, exchanging thoughts about the sessions, and reflecting on everything they had experienced. For me, day one was not just about delivering a session, it was about seeing people genuinely engage with the technology, watching ideas take shape, and being a part of an environment where everyone was curious to learn something new. There were so many conversations, so many questions, and so many interesting interaction throughout the day that it honestly felt like the time just flew by. But while day one was coming to a close, I wasn't quite ready to call it a day because, as much as I enjoyed everything that happened, I knew there was still another day of the boot camp waiting ahead. And after everything we had experienced on day one, I was genuinely excited to see what day two had in store. So, with that, the first day wrapped up and plenty of memories captured along the way, it was time to take a little break and get ready for the day two. Now it's time for the day two. A fresh day, a fresh audience, and whole new wave of excitement inside the auditorium. Just like the day one, participants started arriving, getting comfortable, setting up their systems, and preparing themselves for another day of learning and exploration. Even though the faces were new, the energy felt just as strong. There was that familiar curiosity in the room. People were ready to discover something new, experiment with technology, and make the most of out of the experience. Once everyone was getting settled, the host took the stage and gave the day an energetic start. She welcomed everyone, introduced the program, and set the context for the what the Build with AI Bootcamp was all about, creating an environment where participants could learn, explore, and get hands-on experience with the latest possibilities in AI. Her energetic opening instantly brought the room together and created the perfect atmosphere for the day ahead. The audience was ready, the systems was set up, and the excitement was building once again. After the experience of day one, I already knew there was going to be a plenty of things to look forward to. And now it was time to see what day 2 had in the store. And once the introduction was done, it was time to get session underway. I was invited on stage, and with a fresh audience in front of me, the conversation around artificial intelligence continued. But this time, it was less about simply introducing the technology and more about getting people to think differently about how they can use it. We explored some of the key ideas around generative AI, looked at how AI is evolving beyond traditional approaches, and discussed what it really means to work effectively with these new age tools. One thing I always find interesting while conducting sessions like these is the same topic can lead to completely different conversation depending on the audience. Different people bring different opinions, different questions, different experience, and different ways of looking at the technology. So instead of treating this as a repeat of the previous session, I approach it as a new opportunity to connect the concepts with the audience in front of me, making the discussion more practical, interactive, and relevant to the way they think about what AI about. We also got into the art of communicating with AI, understanding prompts, refining our instruction, and being mindful of how we use the system responsibly. And of course, the best way to understand any technology is to see it in action. So, we explored some of the AI tools and workflows that can help turn an idea into something tangible, giving the audience a more practical perspective on what's possible when we start building with AI, rather than simply talking about it. The stage was set, the audience was engaged, and the conversation had officially begun. And from here, things were about to get a lot more interaction. Once the session got underway, the real interaction began. The audience was not just listening, they were actively engaging, asking questions, challenging ideas, and bringing their own experience into the conversation. Students and professionals came up with questions from different perspectives. Some were curious about concepts we had discussed, while others wanted to understand how they could apply these ideas to the projects they are already working on. And honestly, this was one of my favorite part of the entire session. I really enjoyed the variety of questions because every question came up with a different thought process behind it. Some conversations were about solving specific challenges, while others were about exploring what could be the next that they can build. Participants also shared some of their best projects and ideas, innovative ideas with me, giving me a glimpse into the kind of thing they were experimenting with and the problem they were trying to solve. For me, these interaction made the session more interactive, and you can say it is beyond the presentation. It became a two-way exchange of ideas where I could share what I knew while also learning from the questions, experience, and perspective of the people in the room. And that's exactly what makes these sessions so rewarding. Because sometimes the best part of teaching is not just explaining something, it's discovering what people are capable of building once they start asking the right question. And once again, when the session came to an end, the stage was no longer the center of the experience. The conversation simply moved from the auditorium into the spaces around it. This is where the event became even more interesting. Watching students and professionals from different backgrounds come together, introduce themselves, exchange ideas, and talk about what they were working on. Some conversation started with a simple introduction and quickly turned into a discussion about technology, AI, project, career journey, and the different ways people were experimenting with these new tools. For students, This was a great opportunity to interact with professionals who had already spent time working in the industry. They could ask questions, understand different perspective, and get insight that you don't always get from the classroom or a presentation. And at the same time, at the same time, professionals were also getting to interact with students who were coming with the fresh ideas, new approaches, and a completely different perspective on technology. I think that exchange is what makes a tech community so valuable, because learning doesn't always happen when someone is standing on a stage explaining a concept. Sometimes it happens during a casual conversation, sometimes it is a quick discussion about a project, and sometimes it's someone sharing a challenge they have been trying to solve and another person suggesting a completely different way of looking at it. And there were plenty of those moments happening around us. People were showing each other their project, discussing ideas, comparing approaches, and talking about the tools they were using. Some participants were looking for feedback, while others were simply curious to know how someone else was approaching to the similar problem. And of course, there were plenty of photographs along the way, but behind every picture, there was a conversation, a new introduction, a shared idea, a question, or sometimes just a simple moment of connecting with someone from the same technology ecosystem. What I particularly enjoyed was seeing how quickly these interactions become comfortable. People who had walked into the event as complete strangers were now discussing project together, exchanging contact details, taking pictures, and talking about what they wanted to build next. For students, these conversations could mean discovering a new direction. For professionals, they could mean finding a fresh perspective. And for everyone involved, it was an opportunity to become a part of larger community of people who are curious about technology and excited about what come next. For me, personally, this was one of the most rewarding part of the event. As a speaker, you get to share your knowledge during the session, but when people come up forward and continue the conversation, share what they are building or ask how they can take their ideas further, that's when you realize the discussion has actually gone beyond the stage. And that's what I love about the build with AI experience. It wasn't limited to presentation, tools, demonstration. It was about people. People learning from each other. People sharing their experience. People helping each other think differently. And most importantly, people turning a single event into a network of conversation and possibility. They represent the connection that were made, the ideas that were exchanged, and the conversation that may continue long after the event itself was over. Because in the technology, tools keep changing, platform keep evolving, and new ideas keep coming in. But the ability to connect, collaborate, and learn from each other, that remains one of the most valuable things we can take away from the event. While the audience, sessions, project, and networking moment were the center of everything we experienced, there was another group working quietly behind the scene, the volunteers. And I think it's important to take a moment and acknowledge their contribution. An event like this doesn't come together in just a few hours. It takes days of planning, coordination, preparation, and countless small tasks that most people never get to see. From helping participants get settled and making sure their systems were ready to managing logistics, coordinating different activities, assisting the speakers, and handling things that came up along the way. The volunteers were involved throughout the entire experience. And what makes this their contribution even more special is that much of this work happens away from the spotlight. While everyone else is attending sessions, interacting, learning, and taking pictures, there are people constantly making sure that everything runs continuously. smoothly in the background. So, to every volunteer who invested their time, energy, and effort over the days leading up to the event and throughout the event itself, thank you. Thank you for being there early, staying involved, helping whenever needed, and putting in the work that made the experience smoother for everyone. These pictures may capture only a few moments, but behind them are the days of preparation and lot of dedication. And honestly, a successful event is never the result of one person. It's the result of team that works together, support each other, and stays committed to making the experience better for everyone involved. So this one is for the entire volunteer team. Thank you for all the hard work, the coordination, the energy, and the commitment that helped make the Build with AI experience possible. You may not have always been on the stage there, but you were definitely a big part of made what made the stage possible. You may not have always been on the stage, but you were definitely a big part of what made the stage possible. And with that, we come to the end of this Build with AI experience. Looking back, these 2 days were not just about the AI tools, sessions, or technology. They were about learning, experimenting, sharing ideas, meeting new people, and most importantly, building connections. And if you were a part of the event, I would genuinely love to know what you have been working on. So, if you are a student, a professional, a developer, a creator, or simply someone exploring AI, drop a comment and tell me about your recent project, something you have built, or an idea you are currently working on. You never know, your comment might start a conversation with someone who is working on something similar. And if you enjoyed this blog and want to stay updated with more session, tech events, AI experiments, and practical learning, make sure to subscribe to the Tech Sharmit YouTube channel and stay connected. But before we wrap up, there is one thing I want you to take away from this entire experience. Technology can give you the tools, but your network can open the doors. Tools will keep changing, AI model will keep evolving, new platform and technology will continue to emerge, but the people you meet, the conversation you have, the experience you share, and the relationship you build, those can continue creating value long after the event is over. So keep learning, keep building, keep asking questions, and most importantly, stay connected with your network, because in a world where technology is becoming more accessible every day, sometimes your biggest advantage is not knowing one more tool. It's knowing the right people to learn, collaborate, and build with.